Hi, my name is Mrs. Overish, and I'm so glad you're here to learn with me today. Today, we're going to be talking about force and motion, specifically force and speed and the way things move. We're going to read a page out of our nonfiction book, so our book that has real facts in it, called Check It Out, Force and Motion by Clint Twist. When we're reading nonfiction books, it's really cool because we can open it up to any page and read the information that we want to learn. We don't have to read it in order like other stories. So I opened it up to page 10, where it talks about changes in motion. Objects do not all move at the same speed. The more force you use to move an object, the faster it will move. A marble moves quickly when the player uses a lot of force to flick it. More force equals faster speed. So if I give more force or more effort, that means something that is going to move faster. What do you think? A strong push will make this car move quickly. How do you think this boy can make his car move slowly? So if we want our car to move really fast, we use a strong push. So we use a lot of force. If we want our car to move more slowly, what are we going to do differently to the car? That's right, we're going to push it with less force. So we're going to push it softer or lighter so that it moves less. We're going to practice this today with some different objects that we have. We're going to start with this red ball. This ball is made of plastic and it is round and its surface is smooth. Those are all things that we know are probably going to make something move really easily. I'm going to show first just using little force, and we're going to see how far the ball moves. Just a little force. When we use a little force, our ball doesn't move as fast. So when our ball comes back to me using little force, it's not moving very quickly. But since it's a ball and it's round and it's smooth, it's still gonna move forward even though I didn't use very much force. Let's see what happens when I use a lot of force to make it move. Do we see how fast the ball moved? Let's see it come back with lots of force. It moves so fast it even makes a louder sound as it hits the ground to make it move. The more force I use, the faster the ball went. I can also move this ball in a different way. I don't just have to push it on the ground. I can throw it down and we see our ball bounce. I can also just let the ball go. So this is the last form of motion we're going to use with this ball. So if I just let it go because it's round and smooth, let's see what happens. I barely had to touch it and the ball still had motion and it still moved forward and away from me. Let's try it with something different. We have a bean bag. This bean bag is flat. It has a little bit more weight to it. It's heavier. The material is different. It's more of a fabric, so it's not as smooth as our red ball was. So I'm gonna first do this with just a little force and we're gonna see how far the bean bag can move. If I just do a little force, the bean bag barely moves. I can still reach out and pick it up. Now, if I want to use a lot of force, let's see if our beanbag still moves. I'm still able to slide the beanbag across the floor by using a lot of force to move it there. I can also throw the beanbag just like I threw the ball. And then the beanbag can throw back and it slides quickly across the floor. Now, if I drop the beanbag, so I don't use really any force at all and just let go, what do we think is gonna happen? Is the beanbag gonna move away from me? Or is it gonna drop to the ground and stay where it's at? Let's see. When I just let go of my beanbag, it doesn't move. Because it's flat, it doesn't have a round surface, it's gonna stay wherever I left it. Let's practice with a big yellow ball. Our big yellow ball is big and bouncy. It has air in it, so I know that it's probably gonna move. Let's first show using not very much force. It still moves forward, but it does move pretty slowly, not using very much force. Let's see if I use a lot of force, what happens. The ball moves really quickly and it goes in a really nice straight line. I can also throw the ball and it bounces and moves forward. And let's see if I just let go of the ball, what happens. Our beanbag just fell and stayed in one spot, but that first red ball kind of moved off and went on its own path. Let's see what our yellow ball does when I just let go of the ball. Our yellow ball still moves forward because it's round and it has smooth edges and it has air in it, so it's gonna make it bounce. Let's try another object. We have this rubber disc, something that maybe we might throw. Let's see what happens when I try and push it on the floor using not very much force. When I just use a little force, it doesn't move very far. It's flat, so it does move a little bit because its bottom is smooth, but it's not gonna move as fast as something that's round, okay? What if I use a lot of force? Do we think we can make this move across the floor? Let's see. I had to use quite a bit of force to get it to move, but it did move. What about if I throw this? Let's see if I can get it across the floor. Uh-oh. Since it landed, it's not going to keep moving. It stays in its spot since it lost its motion. What do we think is going to happen if I just let go of it? Our beanbag stayed in one spot, but our two balls rolled off. Let's see what happens to our little flying disc. It just stays in one spot because it's not going to move on its own. We have one last object we're going to try, and that is a bowling pin. Let's see what happens when I use just a little force to move this object. It definitely moves, but does it move like the other objects? Even though I did push it forward, it kind of went around in a circle. Why do we think that it went that way instead of going straight like the other objects when I pushed them? Why do we think that happened? Probably because the shape of our object is different. So an object with a different shape is going to have a different form of movement and move and have different motion. So even though I pushed it forward, it still moves off in a different direction. Let's see if I used a lot of force, if I can move it differently. When I used a lot of force, you are able to move it very quickly. Let's see what happens when I just let go of our bowling pin, where it moves, if it stays still, or if it's gonna roll off. It kind of just stays in one spot. It does have round sides though, so it is able to kind of shift back and forth on its own and continue its own movement. I want you, with an adult or someone else in your home, find two objects. One thing that you know is going to move really quickly, like a ball or something round and smooth. And then I want you to see if you can find something that maybe isn't going to move as easy as our ball. Even though you give it a lot of force, it doesn't move in the way that you want it to, kind of like our rubber disc or our bowling pin was. That way you can show the different forms of motion and show that the different force that you use is going to change the way our object moves. My name is Mrs. Overish, and I'm so glad you came to learn with me today. I'll see you next time.